Hi everyone, my name is Lesedi Mochadibane and I am currently 20 years of age and I'm a student at WITS. I actually graduated from my undergrad degree, Bachelor of Accounting Sciences, and I'm currently doing my postgrad, my CTA, and I'm working towards becoming a chartered accountant. And for those that don't know, we have a 3-year undergrad and then a 1-year postgrad, and then we have 3 years of trainee work where you can do in an audit firm or anywhere that accepts trainee accountants, and you have some board exams in the middle there, and then by the end of those 3 years you get your CA qualification. So far I'm on year 4 out of 7. So basically, how I personally discovered my talents was from looking at things that I found fun. For example, maths. Like, I started falling in love with maths because I saw I was quite good at it, and I just do it more. I do more maths, I'd have more fun with it instead of seeing it as a boring thing, because I was actually quite good at it. And then also coding and programming, I found that talent because I had fun with it, like when I was in grade 9, I think, and I had to choose subjects, and I was told that you can choose IT, where you're going to be in front of a computer the whole classroom. I mean, for me, that was just amazing, because I love computers and I love those kind of things. So that's why I ended up falling in love with programming and coding, and ended up going to go further than what I was taught in high school, and go on to teach myself other coding languages as well. And my other talent, which you could say accounting, I also discovered that because of how much I loved the subject. Before I found sort of a rhythm on how I do it, or a method on how to study it and all of that, I kind of didn't enjoy it that much. But then once I found that, I started enjoying it so much more, and I think my grade 9 accounting teacher had a huge role to play with that. So I became more in love with the practice of accounting, to a point where in grade 9 I was like, you know what, I want to try and reach the highest level of accounting that there is possible, and that's when I started finding out about chartered accountancy and so on and so on. So ultimately, how I discovered or pursued my talents was from finding out things that I loved, and when you love something, it's easier to go on and improve on it, and to go on and work on it, and to take it much further, and take it from just being a talent to becoming a skill. For me, my purpose, it's something that evolves, as you grow and learn more about the world, and grow into an adult, you sort of your passion, your purpose, I would say, sort of changes, or maybe I would say evolves. I'd say 5-6 years ago, I'd say my purpose would be to help my family out, make a huge difference, make sure that I never see them struggling ever again. So going to become a chartered accountant, being quite successful, being able to make sure that they never have any problems in their life, But then as I grew older, I looked at, for example, how much my parents sacrificed to get me into good quality schools, that basically helped me reach where I am today. And if it wasn't for their sacrifice, then I potentially wouldn't have been here. Because I do live in the township. I'm actually from Phosphorus in Boksburg, and if it wasn't for my parents actually sacrificing all that money and taking me to a good schools like Macaulay House and Greenside High School, then I wouldn't have had the same opportunities or have been exposed to the same things. So for example, a lot of people that I grew up with, they sort of in a tough situation. It's a bit hard here, because they didn't have the same access to education as I did. So then that sort of shifted my purpose, and I was like, wait a minute, why should it be that for you from an underprivileged background, you should have to be lucky to succeed? Success shouldn't be dependent fully on luck. Everyone should have an equal footing, and then your success should be dependent on how hard you actually worked to get there. So then my purpose evolved to sort of make the playing field level, to eventually potentially build schools in the townships that could give a lot of children in those townships an equal opportunity, so that even if their parents don't care much about education, they could get a high quality school in their township, potentially for free. That would actually give them the same opportunity as some of us who were able to go to schools like Greenside, Parktown Boys, etc. And then as I grew on and pushed more into entrepreneurship and education in entrepreneurship, I started seeing bigger problems within the country. And then now my purpose, I would say, evolved to sort of trying to help out more people, trying to help out the economy, trying to be as successful as I can be as an entrepreneur, so that I can inspire others to go on to join the path and sort of build the country more. And as you know, entrepreneurship is one of the best ways to build up a country. It's one of the best ways to provide value to your customers, and one of the best ways to build jobs, to create jobs. Entrepreneurship can do those kind of things. Ultimately, just remember that your purpose is always evolving. It's always ever evolving. And I'd say for me, the best way to find your purpose, or to feel it, because it's something you can feel, is when you hear a problem. Normally you'll hear a problem and you feel a sort of like a pain in your heart. Maybe it's not too violent of a pain, it's more of like a slight breeze of a feeling where you're like, I'm not happy with that. I'm genuinely not happy with that. I wish that could be fixed. And when you have that feeling, you have found your purpose. That's what I would say. And how personally I managed to divide myself to fulfill all my passions is time management. Time management, which is the key topic of today's video. And time management is unbelievably important, because time is the most valuable resource in the world. Because no matter what you do, you cannot replace time. You cannot buy it back. You cannot earn it back. Once it's gone, it's gone. Once a second is gone, it will never come back again. You will never have that second ever again. Money you can potentially get back. Material things you can potentially get back. But time you cannot get back. So basically, the tools I use to manage my time is I work very methodically and systematically. So for example, when I start off the day, I make sure that I set sort of a schedule of what I'm going to do. And I try and make it as detailed as possible. And I also make some time for breaks. So for example, I'll wake up, I'll have my breakfast, I'll do my meditations and my readings and all of that stuff. And then I'll sit down and I'll make my timetable. I'll be like, okay, from 9 to 11, I'll work. From 11 to 12, I'll have a sort of a lunch break. From 12 to 2, I'll work again. And then from 2 to 3, I'll have another break. And I set that all the way up until maybe my work will be done for the day, or up until my bedtime. So, and then I have alarms as well. So whenever it's a different point in the day or a different part of the schedule, my alarm goes off and I don't even waste time thinking. I switch off my alarm and I stop whatever I'm doing, and I go on to either go on my break or go on my to do my work. So I make sure that I never cheat my work. So whenever it's my break is over, I make sure I don't snooze that alarm. I go to work immediately. And also in the same vein, I make sure I never cheat my break. So if I'm working and the alarm hits, I don't care if I have 2 more minutes to go. I'll just go and take my break and enjoy my break and come back later to do my work. Basically, the power of a system like that is that it makes you more aware of your time. Because it's something that I implemented in first year. I was implementing it on and off. And what I learned is that whenever you don't make a timetable like that, you feel like you have more time in the day than you actually do have. So you might end up wasting more time. So for example, you'll maybe work for an hour and be like, you know what, I'm tired. Let me just take like a 5-minute break. Then after that 5-minute break, you're like, let me push it to 30 minutes. Then after 30 minutes, like, let me push it to an hour, and then I'll go back to work. I'll do a 2-hour work session to cover up that extra 30 minutes or whatever I lost. But then you end up, you keep losing track of time, and you keep wasting time and losing those crucial minutes until at the end of the day you realize, whoa, I didn't actually achieve what I planned to achieve, and I fell so far behind my schedule. Whereas when you set a schedule, you actually see how little time you have. You're like, whoa, I did not think I had that much time. I only have maybe 4 or 5 2-hour sessions today. So wow, that's not a lot of time. So I need to make sure that during those sessions, I need to fully capitalize on those work sessions and push as hard as I can. And once it's like that, once you become more aware of your time, you'll end up saving more time and you'll end up working more effectively. And in addition to that, you'll also end up enjoying your breaks more, because when you know that your break is only for 30 minutes and you just work for 2 hours, you're going to want to make sure that you actually enjoy that break. You want to make sure that every single minute of that break is enjoyed. Whereas when you don't have a schedule and then you're chilling for 2 hours, eventually your break, it's not even as enjoyable anymore, because your break has been so long and now you're dreading going back to work because you lost all your momentum from taking too long a break, and so on and so on. And ultimately, those are just the techniques that I use personally. You might have different techniques that you make use of, but ultimately it's very important to have your own system to manage your time, especially as a university student, because you're going to have a lot of TATs to do, tutorials, you're going to have a lot of past papers to do, you're going to have a lot of pre-reading to do and post-reading to do if you do that. And ultimately it's all about being able to manage your time, because of course once you reach university, there's no school timetable and a bell that tells you what to do. You'll just have your lectures and you'll just have your own time after your lecture. So you need to be able to manage your own time. No one is going to manage it for you like they did in high school, for example. For those who want to end up venturing into entrepreneurship, or they want to venture into other things or push a hobby further like singing, dancing and all of that stuff, just adding that to your university schedule, that it makes it much more important for you to be able to manage your time as well, because you need to make sure that you never take your university time out of your hobby or your work time. Like it should be balanced. You should never, neither should take from the other. So that whenever you know that it's time to do your schoolwork, you do that and you do it to your full ability. Then when it's time to do your singing, your entrepreneurship, your dancing, you do that to your fullest ability. So you don't take away from either of them. That's why you need to develop sort of like a balance. And once you reach that balance, it'll become so much more efficient and you'll end up being successful in both instead of lacking in both, because you don't balance your time in both of those things. And ultimately, the university is a double-edged sword, because now you have all the free time, but then also you don't have anyone to sort of help you manage it. You're on your own basically. There's certain things you wouldn't be able to do in high school because of how much high school limits you and how much of this high school timetable is so condensed and so on. Whereas in university, you could have a day where you have 1 or 2 lectures and then you're basically free for the rest of the day, and maybe you'll have a TAT at the end of the day. But besides that, you're basically free for almost the whole day. And that extra free time, it's up to you how you use it. You could use it for good, or you could end up wasting that time. But ultimately, make sure that whatever you're using your time on helps you reach the purpose that you have, or the ultimate vision or goal that you have, with also making time for breaks, because breaks are very, very important. And that's actually what I wanted to end the video on today. And it's something I actually learned last year actually, that rest is extremely important, guys, especially if you have a high achiever mindset or you are a hyper conscientious person like myself. Sometimes you feel like you should always work, like you should keep going like non-stop, never take breaks, keep working, and ultimately never taking breaks actually hinders your productivity. there was actually a study. Jordan Peterson spoke about it more. I'm not sure if he was the one who did the study or he spoke to the guy who did the study, but ultimately they spoke to a bunch of high achievers in different industries like doctors, accountants, CEOs, and all of those guys. And they basically asked them to do one thing. They said, okay, guys, you know what? Within every month, take a 2 to 3 day break every 3 months, where you do nothing. And this excludes the weekend. So maybe sometime during the week, you do nothing, you don't touch your work, you don't look at your emails, nothing. And initially, of course, because they are hyper conscientious, they're like, whoa, wait, how will that make me more productive? How does not working make me more productive? And it baffled them. They're like, that doesn't make sense, especially to a person who's always working. It makes no sense. But then they found that their productivity shot up like drastically. They became so much more productive and they became so much happier as well. And it's because us as humans, we sort of have like a cap on how much work we can do, like a battery. Once the batteries run out, you can't work anymore. And that's why a lot of us would experience something like burnout. And I'm sure those of you who've experienced burnout, it's the worst thing ever. Especially for a person who wants to always work, it's even worse. Like, it's the worst thing that can ever happen to a person who wants to work, because all of a sudden you want to work, but you physically can't work. Your body is not letting you, your mind is not letting you, and now you feel like, oh no, I'm being lazy, I can't work, I'm being lazy and whatnot, But then when you understand that's your body's message, a message from your body telling you that, no dude, you need to stop, you need to give me a break or else I'm going to break, that's when you realize that, whoa, these breaks are actually important. Because it's better to take a break at your own leisure, at your own time, and enjoy that break and plan for that break, than to just keep working non-stop and then get a burnout at an unexpected time and maybe not be able to work at a time that's very, very crucial. So that's just what I wanted to end things on. Rest is very important. Outside the lecture room, I'm quite passionate about entrepreneurship as well as the education space. I'm actually working on 2 edtech startups currently, and the first one is called Campus Connect. And basically, the motivation behind starting this startup was because of how the university pass rate was so low, especially amongst underprivileged students. And we noticed that a lot of those students didn't have an adequate support structure or couldn't afford something as expensive as tutoring to sort of help them through some of the struggles they would go through, or to help them understand certain things. So we decided to create a platform called Campus Connect, and that platform offers them high quality free educational resources. Currently it's mainly for accounting students, and so far it's reached about 8,000 students in the country across 16 universities. And the beauty of the platform is that it's completely free, so any students can access it, and then we make our revenue through bigger partnerships. Maybe if we partner with an auditing firm and then they advertise their trainee contracts so that more of the accounting students can sign up with that, or maybe a bank who can advertise the student bank account and the students can go to them, get a bank account there. So we make our revenue that way so that the users and the students don't have to pay, as well as the partnerships. Ultimately, the partnerships are meant to benefit the students, So getting a trainee contract gives them that 3 years of employment during their trainee years, and getting a student bank account, guys, you need a bank account, guys. So my second startup was founded because of how poor the state of maths in this country is, and I was looking at all the problems that I could fix, and of course there are a lot of problems I couldn't fix, but the 2 problems I noticed was that a lot of students don't practice maths enough, and a lot of students don't find it fun, and you can't improve on something if you don't find it fun. So what I did was I looked at the games industry and I saw that games are fun and children play games like all the time. So if you combine the 2, then you could potentially fix that problem. So I founded the company called Mocha Games, and so far I've released 1 maths game demo, and it was the #1 trending educational game on the Google Play Store earlier last year when I released it. And it also won a 20,000 Rand first place cash prize at the Alan Gray DigiJam competition.